Welcome to another explainer video on the Fiqh for Economists series. Today, we're diving deep into a fascinating financial partnership called Mudharabah. It's an ancient idea for sure, but you'll see it has some powerful new relevance in our modern world. You know, this is a classic problem, right? On one hand, you've got people with capital, with money they're ready to put to work. And on the other hand, you've got these brilliant entrepreneurs just full of amazing ideas, but they don't have the funds to get off the ground. So the big question is, how do you connect the two?
So here's our game plan for today. We're going to start with the basic idea, then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of the rules. We'll look at how profit and loss are handled, which is super important, and compare it to a similar concept, and after we see how it's used today, we'll wrap up with a little quiz to test your knowledge.
All right, so Mudharabah is the solution to that puzzle we just talked about. It's this really elegant partnership designed to bring capital and expertise together so that everybody can win.
Let's break this down because it's pretty simple at its core. You've got two main players. First, there's the Sahib al-Mal. Think of them as the investor, the one with the money. Then you have the Mudarib. That's your entrepreneur, the person with the skills, the know-how, and the business plan. It's literally a partnership of money and talent.
And you know, this isn't some brand new concept. It's actually a practice that was around even before Islam, and it's built on these incredible, timeless principles. The whole thing hinges on trust, or amana. It's all about sharing risk for mutual benefit, and that powerful idea has become a cornerstone of modern Islamic finance.
Okay, so for a partnership like this to actually work and be fair, you need a solid set of rules. So let's look at the framework that holds it all together. What are the rules of the game?
So every valid Mudharabah contract has to have these 5 pillars. First, you need the two parties, the investor and the entrepreneur. You obviously need the capital, the mal. You need to know what the business is actually going to do, that's the amal. And finally, you need a clear offer and acceptance, the siyaha, to make it all official.
Now, beyond the pillars, there are some key conditions for the contract to be valid. You know, common sense stuff like both people have to be legally able to make a deal. The capital has to be a specific amount of money, and it has to be fully handed over to the entrepreneur. But here's a really important one. Profit has to be shared as a percentage, like 70-30 or 50-50, never as a fixed amount. And we're about to see why that's so crucial.
And that brings us right to the financial heart of this entire arrangement. How do you handle the good times and the bad times? The way profits and, just as importantly, losses are treated is what makes Mudharabah so unique.
Look at this, it's so clear. If the venture makes money, the profits are split based on that percentage you agreed on upfront. Simple. But if the business loses money, that financial loss is absorbed entirely by the investor, the Sahib al-Mal. The entrepreneur, the Mudarib, only loses their time and effort, assuming, of course, they weren't negligent.
This quote right here, it perfectly captures the essence of this relationship. The entrepreneur is a trustee, someone entrusted with the capital to do their best. They are not a guarantor who has to promise to pay it back no matter what happens. That distinction is everything. It encourages people to take smart risks. Okay, let's trace the flow of money in this diagram. You see the capital flows from the investor right into the project. If we get a profit, boom, it's shared between both parties. But notice what happens if there's a loss. That loss is absorbed by the investor's original capital. The entrepreneur's potential share isn't touched, which really drives home the risk-sharing nature of this deal.
Now, to really understand what Mudharabah is, it actually helps to see what it isn't. And for that, we're going to compare it to its close cousin, another type of Islamic partnership called musharaka. They sound similar, but they're very different.
This table makes it super clear. In Mudharabah, remember, you have one person with capital and another with expertise. But in musharaka, all partners chip in capital, and they all help manage the business. But the biggest difference is right here, in loss-bearing. In musharaka, if there's a loss, everyone shares it. That's totally different from Mudharabah, where the investor bears that financial risk alone.
So you might be thinking, okay, that's a cool history lesson, but does anyone actually use this today? And the answer is a resounding yes. You'd be surprised how relevant this ancient contract is in the 21st century.
This model is everywhere in modern Islamic finance. Banks use it for investment accounts and for financing small and medium-sized businesses. And think about it. It's a perfect framework for venture capital and crowdfunding. It provides an ethical, debt-free way to fund new ideas and protect entrepreneurs from being crushed by financial risk if things don't work out. It really fosters innovation.
All right, we've gone through the basics, the rules, and how it's used today. So what do you say we do a quick check to see how much you've absorbed? Ready for a little quiz?
First question. In a Mudharabah contract, if there's a financial loss, who takes the hit? Was it the investor, the entrepreneur, both, or someone else? Think back to that unique risk structure we talked about.
Okay, question number 2. Which one of these would actually make a Mudharabah contract invalid? Which of these is a big no-no? Remember what we said about fairness and sharing the risk and reward?
And for our final question, what is the official role of the entrepreneur, the mudarib, when it comes to the capital? Are they the owner, a trustee, a borrower, or a guarantor? We had that very specific quote about this one.
Go ahead, take a moment, pause if you need to. Once you think you've got them, drop your answers like 1A, 2B, 3B down in the comments. I'm really curious to see how you all did.
And I'll just leave you with this final thought to chew on. In a world that is so often focused on debt and interest, what could we learn from a system that's built on a foundation of trust and true partnership? How could it really reshape the way we fund new ideas and build businesses? Thanks for watching.